Hey everybody, thanks so much for joining us right here on The Right View. Tonight we're joined by comedian and host of The Right Show. I love that name. Currently on tour, Kayvon. Kayvon, we're excited to have you. And I just found this out, but for people who don't know, give us a background on your name. I thought Kayvon was short for something. It's not.
Well, exactly. It's my real name. First, I just want to say thank you for having me on. What an honor. And I'm a big fan of your whole family. But
Oh,
I'm so
thank
glad
you.
our podcasts have slightly different names because you could have sued me and I don't have the legal backing to take you down. I don't think I could do it.
We could still probably finagle a way to make a lawsuit out of this, but we won't do that. We won't do it. I'm just
I'm
kidding.
just glad we're on good terms still. But
Yeah.
my name is Kayvon Moezi, and Moezi is a Persian name, or Moezi, or however you want to say it. When I'm with my urban friends, it's Moezi, but it's Iranian, and my dad moved here after actually slightly before the revolution, and he was just here to go to school and enjoy all that America is, and then a really far radical regime took over his home country. He could never really return. And that's why we're probably more pro USA and pro freedom than some of the people who were just born into it because they don't know what they have. So hopefully
Totally.
that comes through in my comedy and in my podcast and in my interview with you.
Yeah. Well, by the way, you're 100% right. I feel like so many people who have either immigrated here legally, of course, and done the whole process and have come from countries, even countries that aren't under, some sort of totalitarian or communist regime, they realize how great we have it here in America, why we are so lucky to live in this country. And I'm so happy that you recognize that, because you're right. It's honestly, it's tragic. I think that people who were born here in America don't realize how blessed they truly are. But that's awesome that you're infusing it in your comedy. And I have to ask you about comedy because I often, think about comedians and I wonder, is this something you knew like long term you were going to do when you were a kid? Were you kind of dabbling in this growing up? Were you just a funny kid in school, or how did this happen?
Well, it's two things. First of all, my father, who loves America and knows what this compares to, he put me in Boy Scouts. He taught me to love the country, say the Pledge of Allegiance. You stand for the flag, you show respect. And then I started getting into comedy, and a lot of comedians are on the other side of that. They're trying to be like the punks. They're the class clown. They're trying to disrespect everyone in the class. I was usually the class comedian, not the class clown. Now, I differentiate it like this. The class clown is jumping on the teacher's desk and putting a lampshade on his head and trying to make everyone laugh, but he's really a clown. And the class comedian is like Jerry Seinfeld in the back of the room, and all he's trying to do is make that cute girl laugh to his left, because that might end up in a date by the end of the night. So,
a much better approach, by the way, than to be the class clown. Totally appreciate that.
The class clown wants a lot of attention. He's going to be rude, and the class comedian, keep it in slightly. And so on stage, there are very many styles of comedy. And I want to say, if you came to see me, I'd be like maybe halfway between like George Carlin and Jerry Seinfeld, with some physical, but a lot of hopefully mental jokes to go with it.
Well, always good to keep people thinking. That's the truth. So it sounds like you knew back when you were a kid that you had a bit of a knack for making people laugh, and you just channeled that into a career?
It's funny because I thought I could do it as a kid, but there was no indication I was right at all. So I'm just sitting there believing in myself for no reason. And so when I got on stage the first time, there still was no reason. For the first 5 years, like everyone's like, what are you doing? I lost many friends, family members, girlfriends.
Wow.
But I just knew. I used to watch David Letterman. I used to watch even Johnny Carson. We go back that far, and Jay Leno. And I just loved how they could do a interview and the stand up to opening monologue, kick it to a guest. I'm like, that would be the best job ever. Yeah. And so that's what I got into it, wanting to be the host of one of these late night shows. And in the last few years, late night ratings have gone further and further down. Mm-hmm. Big fan of Saturday Night Live. Now I call it Sorry Not Laughing, SNL. Because
seriously,
it's not funny anymore. And I like the Weekend Update. I used to just love watching Dennis Miller just destroy whatever was in the news. And he would go left or right. Now it's just a one-sided hit job. It's not funny. The ratings reflect it. And if they put me on the show, we could right the ship. But I don't think they have the interest in doing that.
Oh, you heard it here first. Maybe it would be a very smart move, because I never understand why people want to alienate half of their audience, and whatever it might be. You look at things that like Disney has done, for example, or, you look at a Saturday Night Live, and I remember growing up, that used to be so much fun to watch, and I used to really enjoy it. And now it's just totally unwatchable. It's actually just disturbing to see that there are actually people who think this garbage that they're putting out is funny. Right. Would love to get, your voice on there. So we're just going to put it out here. We'll see what happens with it.
If they won't put me on, I'm looking at Fox, Newsmax, OAN, The Blaze, any network. I do my own show, the Right Show, and it's basically Weekend Update, but from my own studio. And some of our ratings are beating Trevor Noah's. And
wow,
Trevor
that's
is
awesome.
Trevor is moving on, but I think the network tapped him on the shoulder and said, we're paying about $30 million a year to keep this show running. And the ratings are not even doing half what a rerun of an old South Park episode will do. So why don't you graciously have other things to go do now? Bye-bye. And so, hello, if we want to save The Daily Show, which was one of my favorites, then put me on there and let's fix this thing.
I love that. Let's get it done. And by the way, people love good comedy. Like, actually, if you look at Greg Gutfeld and the Gutfeld Show on Fox and look at the ratings there, it's pretty amazing. People, I think, are yearning for something like that. We all want to be able to laugh. We all want to be able to have a lighthearted moment, because some of this stuff can be really heavy and really awful, quite frankly, to have to deal with day in and day out. Sure. People's lives are harder. People are struggling to get by. They want some comic relief. And I think it's reflected in shows like, Gutfeld. So look, they put you in there. I don't know what could happen, but we're going to, again, we're just going to put it out to the universe here.
We'll put it out there. One thing I say real quick, I just like, Greg Gutfeld is #1 in the Late Show ratings on probably a quarter of the budget of the major networks. And he's on channel 46 on my TV. That means people have passed so many channels on their way just to make him #1. I'm so proud of him.
Yeah, it's not one of the networks, not ABC, NBC, CBS. This is on a cable news channel. Like, it's amazing.
So cool.
But it really speaks to, I think, what people want out there, and they definitely want more of that. Right. So when you are formulating, say, a stand-up routine, and I'm always curious to hear how people get to, where they end up in their profession. First of all, you started out as a kid, you weren't sure, you thought you could do sort of a late night thing. Now, obviously, you're doing a lot of stand-up. When you kind of write your jokes, how does it work? Do you just observe out in the world and kind of see something that strikes you as funny and then jot it down like on your phone? Or how does this work for you? What's your process?
So jokes can come from many ways. One is you're just thinking of something. One, you sit down with a pen and paper. That's usually the worst way, because you're like, come to me, joke. Come.
Yeah.
One is just interacting with someone at a bar or at a game and go, oh, I'm writing that down. So our antenna are like octopus. It could come from one of 8 ways.
God, I would be so nervous to hang out with you, Kayvon. What if you're like getting jokes out of me? I don't know what's happening.
If you see me go to my phone and type something, it's either a text or that's my new punchline coming.
Yeah, I can't go to the show.
But I'll give you an example of a joke that I wrote. And see, I want to talk about the things we're all talking about, but have my own unique angle. And that's why comedians are so boring on a lot of these big networks and on Netflix. Right. They're not allowed to take a new angle. They get a standing ovation for coming out, fake laugh for coming out and being like, first of all, Republicans suck. And then they're like, the people are clapping and
well, they have the person on the side there that's like, egging them on to clap. Like, they weren't even going to clap at that, if we're all being honest. But that's
what Trevor No Laughs has on the Daily Show and so forth. I don't have an audience clap sign, so when I go out, it's me versus the audience, and I don't know I don't know who's in the crowd. The guy might like me, but he brought his mom and his sister, and they hate Republicans. Who knows? So I go very creative into my joke. I'll give you a tough example. Do you know who Lia Thomas is? She was one of the worst male swimmers of all time. And just last year, she decided she's a woman. Now she's the #1 female swimmer of all time. Now, I want to talk about that, but how in front of 300 strangers? So I just go, look, I'm not going to make fun of her. Relax, leftist. I don't make fun of Lia Thomas, because that is some low-hanging fruit. And they get it, okay? And then I say, what we need men's sports for the traditional men, women's sports for the women, and a new category for the new category, the X-Men. And the crowd just
That's good.
They
I
die
like
laughing.
it.
And that's how you get to like important issue through comedy, because you see, I didn't make fun of the left and I didn't make fun of the right. What I did was show the left has their concerns. They want these human beings to be able to do sports, but the moderates and the right have their concerns too. They want women to be able to have their sports they work so hard to have. So in one joke, I just brought the whole country hopefully a lot further together than Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and the others have in the last two.
Oh, well, that's the truth, because it's gone quite the opposite way, unfortunately, with that crew. Whenever I think about the idea of, I speak to people, I give speeches a lot, and I'm very comfortable talking in front of people. But the idea of having to perform like a comedy routine gives me a little bit of anxiety, because like, what if they don't laugh? Like, what's the worst experience that you've ever had? Do you have one that like sticks with you?
As you're generating new jokes, it's trial and error, and you hope to not do your brand new joke on the convention stage in front of 3,000 people and you hear what you want to do is you do it in the sports bars and this. So some of the worst experiences I've had was, the World Series was playing Game 7 and they're in overtime and they turn off the TV for my comedy night.
Oh my God.
And even I was like, we don't have to do this, sir. Please. And he's like, nope, it's comedy night right now. Boom. And the whole crowd just hated me. I limped through my 35 minutes. Luckily, we turned the game back on. It was still in multiple overtimes.
Was that the biggest applause you got whenever they turned the game?
Yeah, I was like, let's turn the game on. They're like, finally, this idiot shut up. But I didn't want to perform. Let it be known. Another time I was doing a joke. This is very interesting, and the audience will have different views of how this joke goes, but I had just performed at a battered women's shelter, and they offered it, and I went and did it. And then the next night I went to a college. I go, hey, last night I performed at a domestic violence shelter, and it was cool, but I was thinking, how come there's none for men? Like, I've been slapped by a girl, I've been punched, I just had to deal with it. I need a shelter. And a girl stood up and said, I demand you stop this hate speech. How dare you? And then a guy got up and goes, I support you, Stephanie. And I was like, shut up, sit down. And then the whole thing went wild, and they're like yelling and screaming, and these college activists ran and got the professor. He came in and unplugged my microphone, and they gave a standing ovation. They gave a standing ovation that I was getting kicked off the campus, and I didn't even get into my joke. And I was the guy who just volunteered my time the night before for a free show to help people feel better. So that's probably the worst.
I mean, that's really, what's sad to me, and I feel like you could kind of spread this across the board, whether it's at a comedy show or just in general. It feels like people on the left, at least in my experience, take things so seriously. And don't you have to be able to like laugh at yourself a little bit and make light of things, because life can be tough, and it's okay sometimes to be able to laugh at things. And I think people could appreciate perhaps that was a joke, but of course, right. The mob rule, that's always how it goes. And then
I want you to try to guess what college I was at.
I hope it wasn't NC State, because that's where I went to school.
No. A lot of people would say Berkeley. You'd be correct, but no. In this case, it was where Barack Obama went to college. So they're just bringing the further left.
Wow.
It's Occidental University in Pasadena, California. So wow. I couldn't believe that. But you're totally right. I'm a fan of Scott Adams from the Dilbert cartoons, and he has his own podcast. And he said something really great. He said some people don't have a ability to sing. And if you can't sing, nobody holds that against you, but some people just can't sing. Some people aren't coordinated, and some people don't have a sense of humor. And I think if you're on the left, part of being on the left is always feeling like a victim. So if there's any laughter going on, that needs to be shut down immediately. And that's why I went to the moderates and to the rights for my comedy show, because as a Persian immigrant son who spoke English as a second language, Muslim father, you know what? How come the right is welcoming me a lot more than the radical left? I don't know. Maybe we need better branding out there to show the conservatives and the moderates are the ones that are allowing free speech, happiness, enjoy a night of comedy, and go home. That's where I like to hang out.
And by the way, very inclusive, to tell you the truth, because obviously, people label Republicans, conservatives in a very negative light, and they always kind of try to cast this negative light on us. And the funny thing to me is, if any of these people who try to claim that we're awful people, that we don't invite all people to be a part of, our party. That is so wrong. Go to a Trump rally. It's so amazing because the people I have talked to who were Democrats or sort of independents or maybe voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016, and they said, you know what? I think I would just like to go check out a Trump rally and see what this is all about. They all came away saying, wow, that was a much different experience than I thought it would be. People were very welcoming. They were happy I was there. They wanted me to be a part of their group. It's always the opposite, I feel like, in the way that they portray Republicans and conservatives, at least on the left and in the media. Couldn't be farther from the truth. We're trying to be, a party for everybody as well. So I'm glad that you had that same experience. And obviously it's why you have infused conservatism in your comedy. Did you always do that, or was there a certain point that you started kind of embracing that?
Well, that's a really good question. To be honest, I was just a guy who liked to make people laugh. And what was happening was I was getting yelled at or booed in California for certain jokes, but only in LA. When I go to Orange County, everything was smooth again. Later, I had to find out what's going on. You sit down and you're like, why does this joke not work in Hollywood, but I get a standing ovation in Orange County? And then I realized the matrix, the numbers started scrolling down in my eyeballs. I'm like, conservatives and moderates that are happy and functional live in Orange County. They have a little yard, they have a job to go to. And then the scumbags and the trash showing up at these random free shows in Hollywood, they're coming in with baggage. They haven't worked in 2 years. They're hooked on this drug or they're smoking that thing. And then they hear me go up there and I make the same joke. I didn't even know I was hurting feelings. Once I learned all the politics that everyone else had, I was able to then, instead of being like a happy Labrador just running through a field getting bear traps on my ankles, I started realizing, oh, there's a landmine there. Now I could set it off either on purpose or avoid it. And when you're doing that, you're a lot more clever as a comedian, because I'm picking my punchlines. And I do a joke where Megan Rapinoe went to the White House. Now, Trump invited Megan several times because he supports diversity of thought and opinion. She refused every time to go to the White House. Then when Joe Biden invited her to the White House, she went and goes, I never thought I'd get this opportunity.
Oh.
This is really amazing. It's just disgusting, right?
Yeah.
And then she went on to say, I live in a country that doesn't support women or LGBTQ. This country is not fair to me. And I looked it up, and she gets paid $3 million a year to play soccer. The worst part, it's not even real soccer. Women's soccer, Lara. I do that joke on stage, and the crowd goes, oh! And I do that joke on purpose because I know it's going to divide the room. And I go, hold on, I'm going to apologize to anyone who can tell me when their next game is.
Yeah, I know exactly.
And it's so quiet, and everyone starts clapping. I've set off the joke, and I knew it would be a trigger point. But 10 years ago, I would have just done the joke and tried to move on and just been. Bleh.
Wow, good for you. But you know what's great about it too, Kayvon? It makes people think, because the truth is people love to be like offended by everything, and everybody's got, like you said, get their feelings hurt, triggered, all of it. But the truth is, whenever you actually put it in their face and say, look at this, tell me when the next game is, like whatever, they can't do it. And it actually, I hope in some small way, shows them how absurd their reactions are to things like that. Can't we just laugh about it? I mean, come on, really.
We got to laugh. We got to be able to laugh. And another thing that being a conservative or moderate comedian, which I call myself moderate to conservative, because the things I'm saying are edgy. I mean, I'm not sitting there going, get out your Bibles. You see this funny joke on page 32? No, I'm going in. And to be a moderate or conservative comedian, you have to even be a little bit more clever than the average clumsy Netflix
I imagine that.
Because you can't just say all these dirty words, but we still see this stuff. So I do a joke about, I performed in Orange County on a yacht. And it was cool because these Orange County moms, they take great care of themselves. So my first joke is, if they fall off the yacht, they might be able to float, just waiting for help to arrive. Because they come with their own. You might have this in South Florida too. And now, a Netflix comedian would be very dirty with that joke because they're big, they would say the words. I just let the audience, and I'm just doing this, and I'm getting a bigger laugh.
Right.
And I go, one lady's not laughing, but I can tell from her lips she's going to float different.
Oh, my God.
And I
I
don't
love
say a
it.
single bad word, but we all picture the body parts floating and everyone's having a blast. And that's why we take it one step further to try to be a little more clever.
Good for you. I think it's
Mhm.
great. What do your parents think of what you do? I'm just curious.
Well, the problem is, thank you for asking. The problem is the first 10 years, okay, it's going so bad. And in that 10 years, my brother became a doctor.
Oh no.
Yes. And so Persian immigrant father, American mom, they're so proud of my brother, right? And and I realized like the first 10 years was going so bad, I was the Hunter Biden of my family.
Oh no,
But
jeez.
but the problem is now I'm getting better, but they still remember the first 10 years. So I'm like, oh, I was on with the Trump family on the podcast and I'm doing a new dry bar special. They're like, we saw your show 10 years ago. We are not impressed. I have to make new friends and meet new family members now.
No, whenever we get you your own late night show, then I think that maybe they'll change their tune a bit. We're gonna
They
work on
will.
that for sure.
That'll be it.
Yeah.
That'll be the day.
Oh my gosh, so funny. Yeah, your brother made it a lot worse for you, honestly. He
I
couldn't
know.
have
My wife,
just.
little brother too.
Oh no, even worse.
I
Even worse. It's all right. I'm a first child. I'm the oldest in my family, and so we've got to blaze a trail in
Yep.
in a way, and we make it easier for all of them behind us. So y'all are
Yep.
welcome. That's all. That's it.
We did that even when we first came out. We made it easier for them, and for every day ever since, we made it easier for our
See,
young.
it's so literally made it easier,
We made
and
it
people
easier.
exactly. So, do you think we'll see the pendulum start to swing back though with comedians? Because I feel like it's not so much that people are conservative these days by choice. It's because the left has gone so far the other way and off the deep end. So many people who wouldn't have 10 years ago said that they were Republicans or conservative in any way are now registering to vote as Republican because they say this party left me. And I wonder, how can people honestly have a career in comedy when you're really kind of tailoring your content towards these kind of radical crazy people that I don't think represent the majority of the country.
No, so to answer your question, will things swing back? I don't know. I know I made a decision that the things I've said, the jokes I've made, I'll never be able to go to the left again. So if the industry comes, then I'll be in a position to just collect all the fruit that's dropping from the trees. But I'm basically on the outskirts, and many comedians are total cowards. And I got into comedy to be like my idols, George Carlin, Richard Pryor. These guys blazed a trail, not just sit there and comfortably try to get a job. Disney won't
Right.
hire someone. Look, I have the look to be on a Disney show and smile and hang with kids and those little sitcoms they do.
Yeah.
But because of my politics, I'm excommunicated, which is really unfair because I'm a really nice guy, easy to get along with, and I might make fun of a topic they don't like, but I make fun of this topic here. I don't see black and lesbian and gay as victims. I see them as equal to me. I was an athlete in high school. I didn't see a black guy as a poor victim. I saw him as the guy I better wrestle and pin him to the mat, or he's going to pin me to the mat, and he looks a little bit stronger than me, so I better use whatever skill. So I don't. But the left sees everyone as like a victim totem pole, and they're trying to figure out where you land on it. And one reason they hate me so much is because they go, "Ah, you're just a stupid rich white guy." I go, "I was born in a 1-bathroom, 2-bedroom house in Reno, Nevada, with an immigrant father who had just lost everything because the government took all his earnings." And we worked our way back up to what we're trying to get to, which is successful now. And they're like, well, you just look like a white guy, so I hate you because you look like a racist white guy. I go, so you just basically identified yourself then.
Totally. Did you ever have anyone professionally tell you, like, take you aside and they're like, listen, we think you could be very successful, but you can't tell these like conservative jokes. Did anybody give you advice like that?
Yeah, they start with just like, be your friend, then they start blocking you on things, then they start telling other people don't work with you. So it's like a 3-tiered approach to try to shut you down. I've been totally shut out by the so-called cool kids, but I look like a cool kid and the audience sees me and likes me, so they're like, why don't they like this guy? So I'm a big problem for the left.
Yeah, I love that. Let's do more of that. That's what we need to have. I think that's fantastic. Well,
one of my favorite shows, real quick, being invited to was a Black Conservatives of California. Back in 2000, I think 18, they're doing a fundraiser, And that was one of the best nights ever because there's about 400 of them. I didn't even know they existed. They didn't know they existed. And we just had a blast. And it was African-American men only. And the left would have called all of them white supremacists. They have
Of course.
no clue what they're talking
Yeah,
about.
of course. Yeah, they got to slap a label on everybody, even if it is the most absurd thing possible and you could actually see why it doesn't work. Doesn't matter. Throw a label out there because that's pretty much the standard course of things. All right, I got to ask you this question. Would you ever run for political office? Why or why not?
I kind of take the same approach of some of the podcasters I've seen, which is why run for office when we can actually reach more people? I really love being a comedian. I know I'm good at it. But what I could see is reluctantly taking the job. I think you know a guy who had the best life ever, but reluctantly took a pay cut just because he loved his country so much.
Yeah.
So if I'm called upon and needed, yes. I'm a little wild. I got a lot of jokes out there that people would pull up, podcasts, tweets, and they would try to cancel me the whole time. So it would take a monumental effort, but if needed, why not? If it takes a real person, a real patriot to fix this country, I would love to help any way I can. For now, my benefit would be through comedy, through emceeing private events, and just making people laugh and think at the same time.
Gosh, I love laughter. We need more of it. It's great for everybody. So, I mean, I know you will, but keep doing what you do because it's fantastic. And obviously it is very, very needed right now. Well, Kayvon, I got to tell you, thank you for
I like to go,
go ahead.
I like to go where, like, you know, when everyone's surfing the same wave and they're elbowing each other and it's crowded. There was a guy named, I believe his name is Laird Hamilton. And he would go way further out and grab a paddleboard and surf these monsters. And I feel like in my mind, that's what I'm doing. The right is lacking on young, fresh, happy comedians. And the left is not letting them be seen anyways. So it just feels like there's none out there. And that's why I love hanging with you on here and going to all these events. And we can turn any convention into a comedy night for the time I'm on that stage.
Oh, well, let's do maybe we do some comedy at a Trump rally. I don't know.
That'd be awesome.
All right, I'm going to put in a good word. We'll see what happens. And then when they call for the late show, just have me on one time. That's all I ask.
Oh, just one time. You're going to be on the couch the whole time. Just, hey.
I love it. Well, thanks for doing what you do. Thanks for coming on The Right View with us tonight. We're excited to have you. And certainly, where can people find out about your shows if they want to come see you?
Well, anyone that says they saw me from your show, I'm going to give one free ticket to my Orange County, California shows. Yes. So they got to hurry. There's only the first 10 people, but I'm going to be in Huntington Beach and Irvine, California. I bet you have 1 million fans out there. So first 10 for Huntington, first 10 for Irvine, and just say, hey, Lara Trump sent me. And you can find me on YouTube. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on my website, but just type in KVON. I'm the only half Persian comedian named Kayvon.
All right. Well, we can't miss you for now. Maybe someone will try and copy you. We don't know. We'll see.
That's right.
All right, Kayvon. Well, thanks for visiting with us here on The Right View. To everybody at home, as always, thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you back here next time.